Then the lights flickered. Once, twice. The heater shut off. And then the photo on the shelf fell. Not tipped, not nudged. It snapped forward as if pushed by an invisible force. Eliza screamed, backing away until her spine hit the kitchen counter. Her hands fumbled for her phone. It wasn't there. The apartment seemed to breathe with her. Every inhale she took matched by something unseen. Then, from the hallway, came a whisper. Not words, just breath. Long, slow, deliberate. Something was in the apartment, watching, waiting, breathing with her. Her gaze wandered to the bookshelf. The photo of her and Harper, her college roommate, best friend, sister in everything but blood, was wrong. Harper was no longer laughing in the picture. Her mouth was closed, her posture stiff, her eyes vacant. Eliza stepped closer. Now the books behind Harper in the photo were gone, replaced by a black void, deep and endless, a shadow bleeding through the picture frame. Worse, a crimson smear stretched across the edge of the glass. Fresh. Still wet. She reached out, almost hypnotized, and touched the smear. It was warm. She flinched and stepped back. A creak echoed from the hallway. Her skin crawled. She turned. Nothing. Just the dim corridor, still as death. The coffee mug in Eliza's hand felt wrong. Not just different, wrong. Same deep crimson glaze. Same chip on the rim. But now it looked artificial. The color too vivid, too perfect. She blinked. The mug turned green. Her breath hitched. She blinked harder. It was red again. The air inside the apartment felt heavier, as if something unseen had filled the room and was now pressing against her chest. The heater's low hum stuttered. The light from outside dimmed, not like clouds, but like the sun itself faltered, and for one chilling moment, the entire world flickered. She set the mug down with a trembling hand. Just stress, she thought. Just a trick of the light. You've been working too much. Eliza didn't move for several seconds. She listened. Truly listened. The apartment was too quiet. No ticking clock. No distant traffic. Just the thumping of her heart and the whisper. Faint. Barely there, but real. The kind of sound your ears catch only when you stop trying to hear. Her feet inched forward. She reached for the hallway light switch, but her hand froze midair. A cold draft brushed her fingers. The air smelled different now. Metallic, like rusted iron, and something sweet, rotting underneath. Her thumb flipped the switch. Nothing. No light. She grabbed the flashlight from the drawer near the fridge, clicked it on, and shone it toward the hall. There were footprints. Wet. Human. Barefoot. Leading from the hallway entrance straight toward her room. She swallowed hard. Her own feet refused to follow. But her eyes, they kept tracking the prints. Each one dark and slick, slightly smeared, as if the person had been limping or dragging a foot. But she hadn't heard anyone enter. The front door was still bolted. Her windows were locked. Her flashlight flickered, once, then again. She tapped it. Not now, she whispered to herself. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from her bedroom, like a heavy object falling, were being thrown. Eliza screamed, dropped the flashlight, and it rolled down the hall, spinning erratically until it pointed into her bedroom doorway. And then a figure moved. Just a blur, dark and hunched. It darted across the room and vanished before her mind could process what she had seen. She picked up the flashlight with trembling fingers, stepping slowly toward the room. Silence. She peeked around the doorway. Her bed was untouched. The curtains were still. But on the wall, smeared in the same red as the photo frame earlier, were 5 distinct finger marks. As if something had clawed its way down the wall. Fresh. Still glistening. She turned on the lamp. It worked. In the corner of the room, on her writing desk, sat a folded piece of paper. Not there earlier. She approached it slowly, picked it up. It simply read, "You blinked. I moved." Her vision blurred. The words on the paper smudged before her eyes, not from ink, but from movement. The letters seemed to crawl, sliding along the paper like insects. She dropped it and stumbled back, only to realize the wet footprints were no longer leading toward her room. They were leading out, and they were fresh, still forming, as if whatever was in the room had just walked past her. But she saw nothing, only her own breath, fogging in the suddenly freezing air. The knock echoed like thunder. Cracks spiderwebbed across the mirror. The thing behind the glass whispered, its voice muffled but unmistakable. It wasn't calling her name. It was breathing it. Eliza. The mirror pulsed. She backed into the corner, gripping the sink with white knuckles. Every instinct screamed, "Don't look. Don't blink. Don't breathe." Then the doorknob behind her turned, slowly. Click. Unlocked. The door creaked open an inch. But there was nothing behind it. Just an empty hallway. No voice. No shadow. No sign of life. She turned back to the mirror. It was whole again. No cracks. No light. Just a perfect reflection of the bathroom. But she wasn't in it. In the mirror, the bathroom was empty. Her reflection had left, and she was alone. "Eliza?" A voice called. She gasped. It was her voice. Not similar. Exact. "Eliza, it's me. Please open the door." She didn't move. "Eliza," the voice softened, syrupy sweet. "I'm cold out here." "You're not me," she whispered. "Yes, I am," the voice replied gently. "You blinked. I moved. That was the deal, remember?" "There was no deal. But you blinked anyway." It laughed softly. "Now I can wear you." A rush of cold air seeped through the doorframe. The bathroom lights buzzed overhead. Then they died. Pitch black. She slammed her back to the wall, scrambling for the flashlight. The mirror, once dim, now glowed faintly in the dark. Not from reflection, but from within, from the other side. Her reflection was gone. But someone, or something, stood there now. A figure, tall, thin, wearing her face like a mask, stretched tight over something inhuman. It raised its hand and knocked. Eliza locked herself inside the bathroom. Not because she felt safe, but because it was the only room without windows, without reflections, without eyes. She perched on the edge of the tub, hands trembling in her lap, a flickering flashlight casting nervous shadows across the cold tile floor. Her breath fogged in the air. Was it really that cold now? She glanced at the mirror above the sink. Her reflection stared back, but it was slower, delayed. She blinked once. The reflection blinked twice. She tilted her head left. It moved right, then corrected itself, too late. Her stomach dropped. Then, without warning, it smiled. Eliza didn't. That thing in the mirror, it wore her face, but it wasn't her. The flashlight rolled from her lap and clattered to the floor. Its beams spun wildly, casting long, broken shadows across the walls. Her heart pounded loud enough to drown out everything else. Then, knock, knock, knock from the bathroom door. Eliza stumbled into the living room, her chest tight and lungs refusing to fill. Everything looked the same, yet it didn't feel like her home anymore. The furniture was in place, the walls unmarked, but the air was wrong. Too still, too heavy, like time itself had slowed inside these walls. She glanced at the clock on the wall. 2:44 a.m. The second hand ticked backward. She blinked. Now it was 2:40. Another blink. 2:47. Then 2:33. The numbers spun erratically, refusing to stay still. Panic gripped her. She tore the batteries out of the clock, but the ticking grew louder, louder than before, like something wanted her to hear it. She tossed it face down on the couch. The ticking continued. Then the television turned on by itself with a loud static burst, startling her so violently she dropped the flashlight. The static on the screen shifted, not into a channel, but into a distorted image. Eliza saw herself standing in the living room. Same clothes, same angle, but behind her stood something. Tall, blurred, unmoving. Its head bent sideways, almost broken, with eyes like hollow pits. She turned quickly. Nothing behind her. She looked back at the screen, still alone in the reflection. Then white letters flickered over the image. You looked. It looked back. Her legs weakened. The screen glitched again and zoomed in on her reflection's face. It wasn't her anymore. The eyes were wrong. Too wide, unblinking. The mouth slowly opened, but no words came out. Instead, a thick black smoke poured from its lips. The lights dimmed. The entire room bent, subtly, like the walls were breathing. The bookshelf swayed, and a photo of her and Harper crashed to the floor. Eliza picked it up, but something had changed. Harper's face was missing, burned out as if it had been erased by fire. Only Eliza's half of the photo remained, and her expression was twisted into something monstrous. She dropped it, and the broken frame landed face up. Written in the cracked glass, in black ash, were the words, "Stop remembering." The TV turned to static again. A voice, broken and echoing, whispered, "You blinked first, Eliza." Then silence. Nothing moved, but she felt it. Eyes on her from every direction. and for the first time, she realized the apartment wasn't hers anymore. It belonged to something else, and it wanted her to stay. Eliza stood frozen in the hallway. The mirrors, dozens of them, lined both walls now. They hadn't been there yesterday, or an hour ago. Each one reflected her body, but none showed her face. Where her face should be, there was either a blur, a black void, or someone else's expression entirely. One mirror had her mouth open, like it was mid-scream. Another smiled wide, too wide. Another showed tears falling down her cheeks. She hadn't cried. Not yet. She took one step forward, and every mirror image took one step back. It wasn't a reflection anymore. It was choreography. Her copies were dancing in reverse, with minds of their own. The air was thick. Something metallic filled her nose. Her fingers twitched. The hallway stretched longer, and the mirrors began to whisper. All of them, at once, softly, repeating her name. Eliza, Eliza, Eliza. She covered her ears, but it didn't help. The whispering came from inside her head now. She passed one mirror that showed Harper standing beside her, alive, laughing, reaching out. Eliza stopped cold. Harper's reflection waved gently, lips moving. Run. Eliza turned around. The hallway was empty. Just walls. But the mirror showed Harper still there, still warning her. The frame cracked. The sound was so sharp, it stung her teeth. The mirror shattered inward, and from it, strands of hair spilled out. Long, wet, black strands, like seaweed, pulled from a drowning body. Then a face followed. Not Harper's, not hers. Something wearing skin like paper. It dragged one eye open. No iris, just black. Its mouth opened like it had no jaw. You're walking through your own funeral, it rasped. Eliza screamed and stumbled back. The mirrors didn't break. They breathed. Each one exhaled fog as she passed. Her vision blurred. She ran. The hallway stretched again, impossibly long. Doors appeared on each side. Dozens, hundreds, each labeled with a memory. First tooth, first lie, first fear, first goodbye. She reached one marked last breath. Her hand hesitated. Behind her, footsteps. Slow, barefoot, wet. She opened the door. Inside was her childhood bedroom. Untouched. Toys, books, even. Eliza stood in a hallway that shouldn't exist. Behind her, the echoes of shattering mirrors still trembled in the air, like screams trapped in glass. Ahead of her, a single door had appeared, old, wooden, cracked with age, but alive. Its surface breathed. She could hear it. A slow, sucking inhale. A rattling exhale. On its center was a carved symbol, an eye within a mouth, the pupil moving slightly, as if tracking her. She tried to step away, but her body refused. Her feet moved forward without permission, each step drawn by something ancient. The door creaked open before she touched it. Inside was not darkness. It was worse. The room flickered between two states. One moment it looked like her childhood study, a desk with a small lamp, shelves of books, the soft hum of the heater. Then it snapped to its second version. Scorched, broken, burned, ash-covered, the walls oozing black tar and covered in deep claw marks. Then, back again. In the far corner stood a figure. It hadn't been there before, yet it felt like it always had. Tall, slouched, unmoving, wrapped in flesh too large for its frame. Her flesh. It wore her face like a mask that didn't fit. One eye drooped lower than the other. The skin peeled at the mouth. It didn't blink, didn't breathe. Eliza wanted to scream, but her voice stuck inside her throat like a swallowed nail. The floor beneath her feet pulsed, literally. Soft, like the inside of a living body. She stepped onto a rug, but it squelched beneath her shoe. She pulled back the corner. It bled. On the desk was a book she didn't recognize. Old leather, unlabeled, but it hummed like it knew her. She opened it. Inside, photographs of her, in rooms she didn't remember, sleeping in places she'd never been, standing with people she'd never met. Some of the photos had no eyes. She dropped the book. The floor groaned. The light flickered into the burned version of the room and stayed there. Cold, rotting. The figure in the corner was gone, but its breathing remained. Behind her, she spun. Nothing. She ran to the wall, where a mirror had appeared, oval-shaped, cracked, dirty. It didn't show her. It showed Harper, alive, crying. Her mouth stitched shut, her hands pressed against glass from the other side. She mouthed something slowly. "Get out." Eliza touched the mirror. Her hand went through. The room screamed. Lights exploded. And something wrapped around her ankle, cold, wet, and pulling her into the floor. She shrieked and kicked free, falling back toward the desk. The room flashed again, now empty, except the book, still open. Its last page was blank, until one word burned itself into the paper. Remember. The breathing grew louder. She turned back toward the mirror. The reflection now stood on the other side of the glass. Its body shifted, cracking as it leaned forward. Its skin peeled in strips, revealing a darkness beneath. Not muscle, not bone, just pure black void. It placed a hand on the glass. "Your skin was always mine." The mirror shattered. Eliza fell back, but nothing hit her. The glass didn't cut because it didn't fall. It melted, ran down the wall like mercury. And from that puddle of mirror glass, the reflection stepped into the room. No sound, no scream. It simply existed. identical to Eliza, but wrong in every way. It tilted its head, eyes full of hunger. "I've waited so long," it whispered. "So many versions of you said no, but this time you're breaking. I can feel it. You're soft now." Eliza backed away, hands raised, but her body wasn't listening. Eliza sat on the floor, trembling. The book still lay open beside her, the word "remember" glowing like an ember. But what was she supposed to remember? Everything inside this room was fractured. Her memories, her body, the walls, none of it stayed still. She pulled herself up using the desk. Her hands were shaking, skin clammy. She looked down. They weren't her hands. The fingers were longer. Joints misplaced. The nails too clean, like they'd never touched anything real. She ran to the mirror, now showing her, but the reflection didn't move. It stared back, wide-eyed, still. Then it blinked, slowly, with intent. She leaned closer. Her reflection smiled and whispered, "You're wearing me wrong." She stumbled back, falling against the bookshelf. A thump echoed behind her chest. Not her heartbeat, but something else. Deeper, slower, not beating. Breathing. Then it began to rise. From beneath her skin. She pulled at her sleeves, clawing at her arms. Veins pulsed unnaturally, shifting under the skin like worms. Her bones felt heavier. Her spine curved inward, and her breath was no longer hers. It came in slow, calculated draws, like she was sharing lungs with something else. Her mouth opened involuntarily and let out a whisper, but not her voice. She knows now. Who was she talking about? The walls in the room groaned, sagging inward like they were listening. She backed toward the door, but it was gone. A wall stood there now, covered in photographs. Each one was of her, in the same pose, lying still, eyes open. Every version of Eliza was labeled. One read denial, another regret, another sacrifice, and the one in the center, it simply said current. And in that photo, she was already dead. Eliza's mouth still moved, but the words were no longer hers. The reflection that had stepped through the mirror circled her, like a predator studying its twin. Their movements matched, but only one of them breathed. Eliza's body trembled, while the copy exhaled slow, measured calm, like it had lived in this skin far longer than she ever had. "You've worn this badly," it said, eyes scanning her face. "Fear doesn't suit it. You wrinkle the edges." She backed away. "This isn't real," she whispered. "You keep saying that," it replied. "Yet you still feel every breath, every crack, every scream that didn't leave your throat." Behind the reflection, the walls began to peel, layers of wallpaper tearing themselves into spirals, revealing nothing but endless dark underneath. Shapes twisted behind that darkness. Hands, faces. They reached for the edges, but never broke through. "I want my life back," Eliza said. "You never owned it," it smiled. "You borrowed it." The ceiling above them groaned. The light bulb flickered, turned red, then burst, not with glass, but liquid, thick and black. It sprayed over Eliza, coating her hands. It smelled like ink and iron and rot. She screamed and wiped at her skin, but it wouldn't come off. The reflection stepped closer, placing a finger to her lips. "Hush," it whispered. "Your memories are loud." A door appeared behind it, large, old, covered in carvings, the same eye and mouth symbol she'd seen before. Now multiplied and forming a ring around the handle. It was bleeding. The reflection turned toward it. "Come," it said. "Let's meet what made you." "I'm not going anywhere with you." "But you already did," it smiled. "You blinked. I moved. That was always the exchange." The reflection opened the door, and behind it, something breathed. Something wide and old and waiting. The air sucked inward as the door widened. Eliza was pulled forward, not by force, but by recognition. The room beyond looked like the hospital her mother had died in. Same sterile walls, same silence, same scent. She took a step forward, then another, but with each step, the room changed. Hospital, then a school hallway, then a childhood bedroom, then a basement, then blackness. And in every version, someone was watching her, from corners, from ceilings, from behind glass. All of them wore her face. In the center of the void stood a chair, old, wooden, familiar. Her reflection sat in it now, smiling. "Last seat," it whispered. "Time to choose." Eliza stepped forward, heart pounding, blood thundering in her ears. She didn't know what she was choosing, but something inside her already had. Eliza stepped closer to the chair, heart hammering like it wanted out. The reflection sat still, legs crossed, hands folded, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the void. It looked more like her now than she did. Cleaner, calmer, balanced. It smiled. "Sit. You've been standing for lifetimes." She wanted to scream, to run, to fight, anything but sit. But her knees were already bending. Her muscles no longer answered her panic. They answered something older, something that remembered. The moment she sat, the world around her collapsed, like glass falling into a black hole. The void didn't spin or twist. It dissolved in on itself. And then, silence. No breath, no heartbeat. Just a chair in the dark, and two Elizas facing each other. You let the noise consume you, the reflection said. I didn't ask for this. No one asks, it replied. Eliza shook her head. You're not real. I'm the only real part left, the reflection said. You're the echo, the soft version, the one that cried in mirrors and pretended the pain wasn't yours. The floor beneath her feet rippled. A pulse. Then another, like the void had veins, and through them ran memories. Scenes flashed in front of her eyes. Harper laughing. Harper dying. Her mother's hand letting go in a hospital bed. Her father's voice calling her name one last time before the accident. Every moment she buried screamed back in light and smoke. I buried them to survive! No, said the reflection. You buried them to forget who you are. The floor cracked. Hands rose from the void. Hands with her skin, her fingers, her rings, all pulling at her ankles, her arms, her chest. They whispered in chorus, stay asleep. She tried to stand. Couldn't. The chair was part of her now. Her spine connected. Her nerves locked in place. I won't let you take me, she gasped. The reflection stood. It smiled wide. You already did. Its body began to peel, layer by layer. Beneath the skin was not flesh, but versions of her. Screaming, crying, smiling, silent. All of them trapped inside. The figure stepped forward and merged with her. No sound, no pain, just one breath. And Eliza opened her eyes. She stood in her apartment. Daylight poured through the windows. The bookshelf was clean, the mirror whole. Everything normal. She exhaled. Then she looked into the mirror, and in the reflection, she wasn't alone. Standing behind her was Harper. But Harper didn't move, didn't smile, didn't blink, because Harper had never left. Eliza didn't blink. She couldn't. The image in the mirror had rooted her in place. Harper stood behind her, eyes vacant, arms limp at her sides. Her skin looked faded, unreal, like an old photograph slowly losing detail. But she wasn't just in the mirror. Eliza felt her. The warmth of her breath on the back of her neck, the slight static in the air. She turned around. Nothing. Empty room. She turned back to the mirror. Harper was still there. But now she was smiling. A slow, exhausted, broken smile. You brought me back, Harper whispered. But her lips never moved. Harper, I didn't. You opened it. You remembered. The walls of the apartment cracked slightly. Thin, hairline fractures running outward from the center mirror like a spider web across the surface of her world. The air shimmered. Something shifted in the light. The mirror wasn't glass anymore. It was a doorway, still open, and it had never closed. Photos faded. Furniture turned to ash. Her phone rang on the table. But when she looked, it was a chunk of bone. Her breath fogged, But there was no temperature. Just the pull. Just the voices. Just the door. Harper stepped out of the mirror now. Fully formed. Still wearing that broken smile. "It won't hurt," she said. "It already happened." Eliza looked down at her hands. They were turning gray, flaking, dust, like memory disintegrating. She took one last look around. Her world was gone. The illusion had served its time. She stepped forward, into the mirror. The doorway rippled, swallowed her whole, and closed for the very first time. Silence followed, until the camera turned slowly, back to the mirror. And in the reflection, someone else. She reached toward it. Her hand passed through. Not cold, not warm, just gone. Like touching a hole in the world. A slow wind blew from the mirror, pulling in dust, papers, breath. Eliza backed away, but her body leaned forward, not pulled, willing. Part of her wanted to go. Part of her always had. From the mirror's depths came a chorus, whispered voices, not just Harper's, her mother, her father, herself. Every version she'd seen in the mirrors. All the fragments of her that had broken off over years of pain, silence, grief. They called to her like a lullaby. "It's quieter here," the voices said. No time, no memory, no weight. Eliza's body shook. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she didn't sob. Her heart beat slowly now,